What do you do when the plan falls apart, but your people are still looking to you for direction? In this video, I'll show you how to lead with confidence when the path forward isn't clear, and why you don't need a map, you need a compass. Welcome to the Everyday Diplomat, where we equip leaders with real-world strategies to lead with clarity, presence, and influence when it matters most. I'm Michael Forrest, the Everyday Diplomat, and after more than 2 decades of leading high-performing teams throughout combat, crisis, and transformation, I've learned this. Great leadership isn't about having the loudest voice. It's about having the deepest presence. And presence starts with clarity, especially when everything around you feels uncertain. I've been there more times than I can count. I've stood at the front of the rooms where eyes were full of doubt, tension was thick in the air, and when answers everyone wanted didn't even exist yet. There was a time we walked back into headquarters 30 minutes after a formal change of command and were immediately met by NCIS agents with briefings that would change everything. I've led through embassy lockdowns in hostile nations. I've made judgment calls during intruder alerts. I've stood alongside my team in the aftermath of natural disasters. And in every single one of those moments, the map I was supposed to follow no longer applied. That's when I learned one of the most important lessons in leadership. You don't need a map. You need a compass. Somewhere along the way, we convinced ourselves that great leaders are supposed to have all the answers. That certainty is strength. That if you're unsure, you're unqualified. But here's the truth. Certainty is an illusion, and chasing it can be quite dangerous. The world moves too fast. The ground shifts too often, and the context is always changing. In the Marines, we had a saying, no plan survives first contact. You can plan meticulously, you can map out contingencies, develop courses of action, and run through rehearsals, and within moments of execution, something will change. A new variable, a missing resource, an unexpected shift in human behavior. And when that happens, the value of the plan fades, but the value of the leader rises. That's why real leadership has never been about having the perfect map. It's about knowing how to orient yourself when the map is gone. That's where your internal compass comes in. The compass is made up of the things that don't change: your values, your integrity, your ability to listen, to empathize, to empower others. That's what gives you direction when everything else is chaos. Your people don't expect you to know everything. What they need is for you to show up calm, honest, and present. They need to see that you're still moving forward, not because the path is clear, but because your direction is true. That's how trust is built in uncertain times, not through flawless execution, but through grounded presence. Let me walk you through a few moments where I had no map, no checklist, no blueprints, just people who needed leadership and pressure wouldn't wait. One of the most difficult moments I ever faced as a senior enlisted advisor came during what should have been a ceremonial transition. We had just completed a change of command, formally welcoming a new commander to the unit. It was a moment that normally symbolized stability, direction, and renewal. But barely 30 minutes after walking back into the headquarters office, we were met by NCIS agents with a sobering briefing. Within a very short span of time, the unit had experienced 2 incredibly serious incidents. One that resulted in a Marine nearly losing his life, and another that tragically ended with a Marine passing away. That kind of loss is devastating in any command. But for a new commander who has just taken charge moments earlier, it was unimaginable. And in that moment, leadership wasn't about tactical expertise. It was about presence. It was about showing up, not with perfect answers, but with calm, clarity, and strength. I remember taking a deep breath, squaring up with the new CO, and advising him with steady calm and confidence that comes with 21 years of experience, because we had no other options. Then there were the times where I served on embassy duty in some of the most politically charged environments overseas. Lockdowns, civil unrest, protest at the gate. In some cases, the external environment felt just a hair away from spiraling. And yet inside the walls of those embassies, our job was to protect and project stability. Even when the radios were quiet, even when the direction wasn't coming fast enough, leadership in those moments meant walking the halls, locking eyes with your people, and being physically present, because presence calms, not just for them, but for you too. I've also led through internal unit breakdowns, personnel issues, fractured trust, and emotionally charged decisions that couldn't be delegated. And in every one of those moments, I didn't have the clearest plan or the best playbook, but I had a compass. I knew who I was, and I knew what my people needed. And I understood that calm doesn't come from control, it comes from character. When the map disappears, your values become your guide. That's where we're headed next. After my first tour as a first sergeant, I received a small desktop compass. It was a small going-away gift, but one that I still consider among the most meaningful I've ever received. It came from a great mentor of mine, Sergeant Major Chris Singley. Inscribed on the base are the words, "Leading with a moral compass. If it doesn't feel right, don't do it." That inscription wasn't just thoughtful, it was earned. During that tour, I had been placed in more than a few high-pressure situations. Situations where there wasn't always a clear right or wrong answer. But I showed up consistently. I led with integrity. I made the hard calls even when they weren't popular. And that compass, it now sits prominently on my desk, pointed directly at me. Not as a decoration, but as a reminder. Leadership isn't about certainty. It's about alignment. It's about knowing who you are, what you stand for, and having the courage to act on it, especially when the pressures are high. There was a particular Marine I chose to stand up for during a more recent tour, and unbeknownst to me, it would end up creating a friction between senior members outside the chain of command that would affect me quite personally for nearly a year. The easy thing would have been to go along with the recommendation, but I couldn't look the other way. It cost me. It delayed me my promotion. It brought more stress than I care to remember, but it showed my Marines who I was. And when leadership changed over, the new team saw that decision that I made as the one I should have, and things improved from there. That's what a compass does. It doesn't give you a perfect map, but it always points you in the right direction. And when everything else is uncertain, that's what keeps you grounded. And in times of chaos, that direction is everything. So let's go ahead and talk about what this actually looks like in practice. What do you do when the path ahead is unclear? What do you reach for when people are looking to you, not for perfection, but for presence? Here are 4 tools that I have used to lead through uncertainty. Tools that help you stay grounded even when the map disappears. Tool number 1, clarity over certainty. Don't pretend to know what you don't. People don't expect their leaders to be a fortune teller, but they do expect you to be honest, clear, and consistent. Say what you know, say what you don't know, and say what you're doing about it. Here's what we know right now. Here's what's still unfolding, and here's what we're focused on in the meantime. That type of communication builds trust, even when the answers are incomplete. Tool number 2, anchor points. In times of instability, people look for something to hold on to. It might be a daily check-in, a consistent phrase, a short walk and talk. When I've led in high-stress environments, I made it a point to show up physically in different parts of the unit. No agenda, no clipboard, just presence. That type of repetition becomes an anchor, and it tells your people we're still here and we're still moving. Tool number 3, the guide framework. One of the most powerful tools that I've adapted, and the framework that I use in my own decision-making, is something I call the guide framework. It was built over more than 2 decades of leadership in complex, high-pressure environments, and it's now the cornerstone of my flagship course, Foundations, the Essentials of Diplomatic Leadership. GUIDE is an acronym that stands for Gather, Understand, Initiate, Deliver, and Evaluate. This isn't just a process, it's a leadership compass. It helps you stay grounded when things get messy, uncertain, or emotionally charged. It guides how you collect insight, build alignment, take action, and grow as a leader without losing any sight of your values or your people. If you want to go deeper into how to apply this framework in real-world leadership challenges, I walk through it step by step in my course, which officially premieres on May 5th, 2025. You'll find the link to that course overview in the description below. And finally, tool number 4. Ask the second question. This one is deceptively simple and yet incredibly powerful. Most people ask one question and move on. Hey, you doing okay? Yeah, I'm doing good. Bam, done. But real insight, the kind that tells you what people are really feeling, comes from that second question. No, really. How you holding up with everything going on? That follow-up opens doors. It builds connection, and in those moments, people start to feel seen, not just managed. When you consistently apply these tools, clarity, anchoring routines, and values-based approach, and deeper conversations, you become the stabilizing force, not just for your team, but for yourself. Let's be honest, uncertainty isn't going away. Whether you're leading a team in a corporate boardroom, managing a unit in crisis, or navigating leadership in your own family or the community, the days of predictable leadership playbooks are completely over. What people are looking for now isn't perfection, it's presence. They want leaders who are calm when others react, clear when others retreat, and consistent when things get chaotic. That's why framework like the guide matter, because they give you a way to lead with integrity and intentionality, even when that map disappears. And that's what leadership really is. Not knowing everything, but knowing who you are. Not having all the answers, but being willing to ask the right questions and show up anyway. Leadership is tested most when things are unclear. So the next time you feel pressures rising and the path ahead starts to fade, don't panic. Just pause. Look inward and reach for your compass, because your people don't need you to be perfect. They need you to be grounded, and grounded leaders, they move others forward, especially when that map is missing. If this message resonated with you, or if you took something useful from it, go ahead and give this video a like. And if you're committed to leading with more clarity, presence, and influence, consider subscribing. I've got more content like this coming your way every week, and I'd be honored to have you here.